Welcome to the last lecture of today. And in this lecture, also, although we have given you a snippet of these things in the inauguration, but what I am planning to do in this set of 5 lectures that I am going to deliver is to explore a particular information theoretic quantity called circuit complexity in the context of some quantum mechanical systems and quantum field theory. And the motivation from it comes from something called ADS-CFT correspondence. And that we will make all this word precise as I will go on with the lectures. So motivated by certain observations in gravity, we will explore this so-called circuit complexity in quantum mechanical systems, quantum field theory, and see what interesting things and novel features of the underlying system we can learn using this quantity. So you may wondering that it may seem like a little bit disparate. That one thing I'm talking about gravity, one thing I'm talking about something about some information theory, quantum information theory quantity. What's the connection? And that's precisely I hope to actually convince you that there is a important connections and important and as well as very interesting connections. And if some of you want to pursue in this line of research, this is quite exciting. That is what I hope to actually impress upon you throughout these 5 lectures. So let's start and see. So before I go into the subject, let's set the perspective straight. Why I am actually discuss a quantum information theory quantity in QFT and etc. Where the motivation comes from, basically. Of course, you know the complexity. Some of you heard these notions are very important in quantum computation, of course. And this is a subject by itself which requires a full course, 1 semester course to study. But I'm not going to give you a quantum computation perspective. I'm rather give you a high energy theories perspective and convince you why from the high energy theory point of view we are interested, particularly those who are dealing with quantum gravity, ADS-CFT, etc. So let me tell you the bigger motivation. Of course, I will come back to it in various stages in the talk. So you will convince, hopefully you will be able, I will be able to convince you. So the bigger motivation is actually hidden in this Venn diagram. That is actually is showing on the screen. So what is this? So there are very interesting and important duality has been postulated in high energy theory, which is known as ADS-CFT correspondence. And also popularly sometimes we call it a holography. So this is a duality which actually make a connection between certain type of quantum field theory with a particular regime of gravity in a complicated space-time, not so complicated rather, in a space-time called anti-de Sitter space-time. So this is the, and we will see what is the essence of the ADS-CFT very briefly also. And so this duality is extremely important in the sense that it actually probably one of the best platform to study and learn about some perturbative aspect of quantum gravity theory, which is quite elusive to us understanding. And this has 2 phases. This relates some field theory with some gravity theory. So it has provided some deep insight to the quantum field theory. And these are some quantum field theories, which is actually very difficult to handle. We will see why they are difficult to handle actually. So ADS-CFT has provided at least last 32 years has provided deep insight not only in the gravity but in the quantum field theory and sort of other branches of physics itself, which is actually scattered around this Venn diagram sequence. Now you will see that this holography or what I am saying, the ADS-CFT corresponding is a conjecture. We don't have a proof. We don't know exactly how it works. We can only check and case by case and justify it example by example. We don't know exactly the proof or how it works. So basic mechanism of this ADS-CFT, although this is a very interesting thing, is still elusive. So we wanted to get an understanding how this ADS-CFT, why and how this ADS-CFT works. And there are several ways to do that. And in recent times, several advances or several ideas from other branches of theoretical physics that is coming into, especially from quantum information and quantum computation, ideas from this quantum information theory, etc., has helped us to gain some insight about the mechanism of this ADS-CFT correspondence. That is, help us to gain insight about some aspect of quantum gravity. That is where the most interesting thing lies. So some of the tools, for example, I will discuss entanglement, has played an extremely important role to understand some aspect of this gravity or geometry within the ADS-CFT framework. And as I said, that ADS-CFT has a two phase. One is the gravity phase, one is the field theory phase. So, okay, so there are ideas coming from quantum information theory to help us understand about stuff about gravity. But on the other hand, there are well-motivated conjecture coming from ADS-CFT itself about certain tools of quantum information theory, which has actually shed important light or help us to compute this extremely important quantum information theoretical quantities in quantum many-body system and quantum field theory, which would have been otherwise extremely difficult. So not only these tools of quantum information theory help us to understand some aspect of gravity, but on the other hand, ADS-CFT has shed important light on these tools. And one such tool that is the hero of our talk is complexity. And what we will do precisely is that motivated some of the conjecture coming from ADS-CFT correspondence, we will try to explore this so-called complexity or circuit complexity in quantum many-body systems and try to learn some novel features or see at least what we can learn, why this complexity would be used and from what perspective. That is the whole goal of this talk. I hope the perspective is clear actually. So, and I should remark that if you see this Venn diagram, so we are living in a very interesting era actually, where not only one particular aspect of gravity is actually, we have to deal with one particular aspect of gravity only, but there are a lot of insight coming from various other branches of theoretical physics, and all these ideas coming together, we have to mismatch all these ideas, conglomerate all these ideas, and then have to understand, and then it is really developing our idea of quantum gravity. Although the complete understanding is still elusive, probably it will remain elusive, but at least in the due course of this process of understanding gravity by using this information theory technique, etc., has shed some important light, not only in gravity, but various other branches of physics. That's the point that I like to highlight throughout these lectures. Okay. So I hope the perspective is clear, and I hope that if you really wanted to theoretical physics, you find it interesting, because you see a lot of ideas. You will require a lot of ideas. It's not just one single idea, but you get a lot of different ideas coming from different time to do this. So it's challenging, but it's interesting. Okay. So I will pause here, and if you have any questions regarding the overview, you can ask or type. Okay. Okay. So let me then proceed a little bit more. So this is the outline of my intended these lectures. So as I said, the basic premise, the basic motivation comes from ADS-CFT conjecture, and I think that this is a school. So and most of you, like maybe MSc student, may not be familiar most of the ideas. I think that instead of just introducing in one line ADS-CFT correspondence, I will briefly give you a very concise introduction, little bit elaborate, but not so. It cannot be, because teaching ADS-CFT will require a course by itself actually. And then then I will actually try to motivate that what is the role of quantum information in holography. So one of the favorite quantity, at least to me, is entanglement entropy, how it has been calculated in ADS-CFT and so on. And then I will try to motivate why we go beyond entanglement entropy. We need some other quantities like complexity, and motivate and show you the conjecture about the complexity coming from ADS-CFT. So this I intended to do in first 2 lecture. I don't know whether I will be able to completely do it. Maybe there will be spillover, but I will go slowly, and I don't think we need to cover too many things. Instead, I should impress upon the fact the importance of this thing, right? And this part we will done with the holography, and then the last 3 lecture, motivated by the holographic conjecture, we like to try to actually come up with some technique to compute complexity in quantum field theory or even simple quantum mechanical system. Because to check holographic conjecture, some conjecture made in, we have to check in gravity side, you have to check it in the field theory side also. So that is the motivation to the biggest motivation, at least from my point of view, to do complexity. And in the process that we will learn very interesting things actually. I hope that it will be interesting to you. So that I plan to do in the last 3 lecture, and then I, of course, last lecture I will also list out several open questions. There are too many open questions. And I should say that the first 2 part we will require some. I will try to give you a diluted version of ADS-CFT correspondence, as much as simplified version without resorting to any string theory, etc. I will try my best to convey the essential message. And in the once we get the motivation in the last 3 part, you will rather not required. We will not as such require the ADS-CFT calculations. ADS-CFT calculation. So you can actually and last 3 part will probably be a little bit more easier than the first 2 part. And of course, in the first part, and many calculation I will skip. I cannot show you the many calculation given this only these 2 3 lecture. And many of the thing I will convey message pictorially. But I hope that even if you understand, even if you cannot understand every tiny details, I think you should get the bigger picture. If not, you should ask me and type questions. And I think and also one more disclaimer is that this is like this complexity and in the context of holography and QFT is like the emerging field. It is like happening. It started like 3-4 years back. So this is like an open-ended subject. There is no the textbook reference that I can give. I will only focus some of the application which I have done myself. I have involved myself and list out other possible things for you. So you should go back and look at the references that is cited. I will supply with the references. These will be some papers, etc. But unfortunately, there will be no so-called textbook in this subject. And of course, this is like we are still exploring. We are still actually in the preliminary stage. So if you, we should have a good discussion, and if you have some interesting thought, that is always welcome. Any constructive criticism always welcome. So you will see there will be no algorithm. When we compute complexity, there will be no algorithm. The algorithm of computing complexity, we will do something which we think sensible, but there may be other way around. Because this is like an open-ended thing still. And lastly, I will conclude and with future prospects, etc., what we stand, etc. Okay. So this is the most lecture. Maybe there will be spillover, but we will see as we go on. Okay. Okay, so today we will actually start with the first part. We'll try to give you sort of a brief introduction or motivate you to do ADS-CFT holography. So let's start with that. And I will take a bottom-up approach. As I say, I will not refer to any string theory, and I will make it as dilute as possible. Sometimes I will refer to only pictures instead of equation, and hopefully you will get the message. And these are the these three references that I will mostly follow. So reference 2 is like a book sort of collected some developments of ADS-CFT. You can actually, if you are interested, you should go back and look into this book, this reference 2 especially. And reference 1 is the first DB of ADS-CFT, and reference 3 is a very useful book in conformal field theory. So you should go back after this. And this fair copy of lecture note or slide, I will do a combination of slide and lecture note, the video, this lecture, these things, these classes. So I will upload it, it will be supplied with that after the lectures. Okay. Okay, so I think I have given enough perspective, enough motivation to look into this. So let's start with the subject itself. So before directly diving into understanding ADA safety, so let me give you some examples of dualities, which is more common in physics. At least I will give you one concrete example, and that will help you to actually get used to the machinery that you will be required to understand this kind of stuff, hopefully. So let's take an example of dualities in physics. Also, I think I will pause in between. Also, this is like a total 1.5 hour lecture. I will always try to 5-10 minutes earlier, finish 5-10 minutes earlier to have maximum possible questions. So when we say dualities in physics, what we mean is that this is like an equivalence between two seemingly different theory of physics. Okay. And this equivalence can happen at various levels. It can happen at the level of equation of motion. It can happen at the level of partition, generating function, which we will see actually. And it can happen in all sort of levels actually. Also, there are some characteristics of duality. These are typical characteristics of dualities. It is like degrees of freedom of the Lagrangian of the two theories that are dual to each other need not to be same actually. But global symmetry under which these two theories are invariant generally same. You will see ADA safety is one such example. Also, you will see equation of motion of one theory gets mapped to some constant equation of one theory. This is like Bianchi identity. I will give you an example in 1 minute. And sometimes it happens that one theory where the coupling of the fields, etc., are weak is dual to some theory with the coupling is strong. So this is called a strong weak duality. And ADA safety, this is not a very common thing, but I will give you some example. And of course, ADA safety is one of the strong weak duality. I will spell it for you as we go. Okay, so let's take one very common example. I think you will be able to relate it. This is the Maxwell duality. So we call it electromagnetic duality basically. So let's write down the Maxwell's equation. E and rho, and then this equation, another equation is the J current plus d dt. Okay, and you can write these two equations in a very compact form. I hope some of you have seen this by introducing the F mu nu tensor. J mu is the source. Zero component of J mu is basically the density, charge density, and the other components are current. I hope these indices are familiar with you because you are doing a GR course actually. And these are like the Lorentz indices, right? Lorentz indices, and I mostly work in 3+1 dimension, 3 space and 1 time dimension. And I set all those pesky constant like mu, epsilon, speed of sound to 1. Let's not bother about those things. So these are two Maxwell equations, and these two you know that this depend on source. So they are the dynamical equations. So once you fix the source, you can solve electric field and magnetic. So we call the dynamic equations, dynamical equations. Okay. These are the Maxwell's equations. And now we have two more. You have seen two more equations, which we also tend to call Maxwell equation, but let me point out the difference actually. We have grad dot D and that other equation, which is this. Okay. And these two equations also can be written in a very compact form by introducing this F tilde trace tensor, and I will immediately write what it is. F tilde is related to F mu nu by some epsilon mu nu rho sigma. This is the Levi-Civita tensor, but with the four, each of the index takes 4 value, 4 index Levi-Civita tensor. And typically we call this F tilde as some kind of a Hodge dual. This is just a terminology, but let's not bother about it. You don't. So these two equations are independent of sources and they are called constant equations. So whatever you solve the first two Maxwell equation, first E and B, they should satisfy these two equations automatically. Otherwise, system makes no sense. Electrodynamics makes no sense. These are called Maxwell's equation. And in fact, in a fancy language, they are called Bianchi identity, basically. So I should point out a connection that this Bianchi identity is in the same essence at what you have seen in the GR. The constant on the R mu nu gives you a Bianchi identity. That's a constant equation, is the same. So Bianchi identity means some kind of a constant equation, at least in our language. Now, if you set rho equal to G and J 0, the source free Maxwell equation, then you can look at these equations and very easily see that if you interchange E by minus B, then it's a symmetry. The equation of motion remains same. Okay. For rho equal to and current, the source free, replace E by minus of B, is a symmetry of equation of motion. See, this is a symmetry at the level of equation of motion, not at the level of Maxwell-Lagrange. Maxwell-Lagrange will change the sign under this. Okay. So this amounts to the fact that we are actually interchanging F mu nu by this F tilde mu. This is not very hard to convince. So you can see the dynamical Maxwell's equation and the Bianchi identity get interchanged. And this is a version of so-called the electromagnetic duality when there is no source. So this is the first time you see a dual, that E and B changing the theory, the new theory remains the same as the original theory. This is one of the example of electromagnetic duality. Okay. Now let's make it a little bit concrete footing and let's see that how this actually work, what it is mean actually. And the technology that we will going to introduce will be useful for ADA safety statement purpose, point of view. So let's consider a bunch of photon. You know that electromagnetic, the EMU, the gauge field, they are a photon, bunch of photon, and they don't interact with any sources. So this is a trivial theory, just F mu nu square. The theory is just F mu nu square, non-interacting theory. And let's write down a partition function or the path integral, whatever you call, of this theory. Which is what is that? For those who may not be familiar with this, what is the partition function? So Z, so you write your exponential of your action. Action is something I times the action, I times. This is some coupling, overall coupling constant. I'm not G square. F mu nu d4x. So this is the Lagrangian and this is the action. Basically, I'm writing e to the power minus I times the Maxwell action and then integrate over all possible field configuration, which is in terms of mu, which is integrate over d. And because this is a gauge theory, you know there is a redundancy in the degrees of freedom. Only some of the degrees of freedom are actually there because there is a gauge underlying gauge symmetry. So we have to put a constant so that we don't overcount the number of. So if you work in Lorentz gauge, then we have to put a constant. So delta of del mu mu, because these are Lorentz gauge constant, the gauge constant. Okay? And just to let you know that those who don't familiar with this concept of path integral, so this is a very important thing. This is defined by exponentiating the action, the Euclidean action, and then integrate over all the possible field configuration. And once you know this kind of a object in quantum field theory, which means that you essentially can calculate all the correlation function, all the observable of the theory. That is why it's so important. So you should go back and read it. Okay, so far okay. So now let's try to change the variable to mu to f mu. Just change the variable. Mu to the f mu. Then change the variable. This is in terms of mu nu. But let's change the variable. So because now the integration over dmu nu, it will be over df mu. So if you do that, and I'm skipping some algebra, so the partition function will be some factor, which is the Jacobian. You know that when you change one variable, you get a Jacobian, which is the overall factor. I don't care simply at this point. Then you have, instead of f mu nu of d of f mu nu, exponential of minus I 4g square f mu nu square d4x. And again, you have to put a constraint in terms of f mu nu is the gauge constant, which is the Lorentz gauge constant. For example, I chosen. And what is the constraint that you should put here? If you're doing it in terms of f mu nu, is the Bianchi identity, right? That I showed that is the constraint from the is the constraint, right? So you should put that the constraint, the Bianchi identity, which is epsilon mu nu rho sigma sorry. Yes, so let me just copy this. So it will be del mu f mu nu tilde. This is the constant. Okay. Mu f mu nu tilde. So Bianchi identity as a constant. Okay. Now let's do a little bit fancy thing. Let's try to introduce something called a Lagrange multiplier and convert this exponential, this delta function, into something in the exponent. This convert this delta function in terms of the exponential function. Let's do that. So let's introduce something called Lagrange multiplier. Which we'll call some C alpha, some vector field, vector. And let's rewrite this theory in terms of this fake variable. This is like a fake variable that we are introducing. We're just rewriting this equation in terms of a little bit in a different way. And the identity that we will use, you should be knowing from your mathematical methods code. This is a very trivial thing. So remember that this is the identity dx e to the power I xy 2 pi delta. So C will play the role of x and y is this stuff inside. Okay, x, the C will play this role. So we use this delta function identity to rewrite the partition function in the following way. So let's do that. So I am neglecting the overall constraint, overall factors. We have dc alpha minus e power. Let me put it this 1/4g square factor inside now. d4x plus, this is everything in the exponential, c alpha epsilon alpha beta gamma delta beta gamma alpha. something like that. So please do check the index contraction, but I think I am right. And there, of course, then there we are constraint. C mu also like a gauge field, so we have to put a gauge constraint. So you know there is a degeneracy. C alpha you can change to C alpha to delta alpha, like a gauge transformation. You can do it on the C also, and nothing will change. If you shift this Lagrange multiplier, nothing will change. So we have to put this constant. So not to overcome all these degrees of freedom. Now let's do an integration by parts. So you can see the integration is a nice Gaussian integration. It has only f mu square, f mu, not more than quadratic. So let's do the integration by parts, and we will drop a boundary term, of course. So what we do, we will perform this integration over df mu, drop a boundary term, and let's see what it gives. So do an integration. This is done in my notes. I will skip the step. Integration over f mu nu, neglect a boundary term. And let's see what happens. Also, before that, let's define a new field tensor like f mu nu. Let's define something called a g alpha beta, which is basically almost similar to f mu nu, you know, del mu a nu minus del nu mu. G alpha beta, same thing, but in terms of this new variable c. Okay. So let's define that. And now if you perform this integration, and after some algebra, you can actually write the following. You can get the following. So I'm writing it in the red color. Tc alpha so you should do this exercise by yourself. So 1 to 2 del mu c mu. Okay. But now let's compare with the original theory, that theory that we start from, which is here. Okay. The first time I wrote here. This one. So let me copy it. That. So you see, we start from there, we do all these steps and rewrite the theory, and we get another z from this theory, and these two z are equivalent. You see, these two are z are equivalent. It's coming from this original thing. Get another z in terms of this new g mu nu field, which is almost same like f mu nu, exactly structure wise same, but in terms of this new c. But note that the coupling constant in front of the original theory is 1 over g square. Now the coupling constant of the new theory is become g square, not 1 over g square, but just g square. And this is precisely the essence of this electromagnetic duality. So we get the same U1 theory, the Maxwell theory, in terms of this new C. But in terms of C alpha. So this is called a self-duality, and the coupling constant G maps to 1 over G. You see, when G is small, then 1 over G is large, and then G is large, 1 over G is small. And this is precisely the strong weak duality. One theory, when the coupling constant is small, other theory, the coupling constant has to be large. So you can now have a statement of strong weak duality. So these intuition will help us when I state the ADS-CFT dictionary. Okay. duality. But AMU and CMU is completely different, and their relation is very complicated. They are non-local. I can't even write it down in a local form. And there is a very specialty, although you see that both sides of this dual theory, both sides have the same type of degrees of freedom. But you will see that it is not necessarily the case that two theory may have different degrees of freedom, which is the case will be for the area safety. But the important interesting thing is that this is a very familiar example, but in terms of path integral, if you reformulate this, you will have this strong duality. So electromagnetic duality is like a strong duality. Example of a strong duality. Okay, so I think you got the basic intuition how this duality business works, and then we can actually slowly proceed to the statement of ADA safety, because it will be formulated in terms of this partition function. So let me take a pause, and if you have any questions at this point, you can ask if you have any questions. Or you can type it in chat. No, so G is the coupling. So think about so G is the coupling between which fields? No, this is the free Maxwell theory. Remember electrodynamics Lagrangian, F mu nu square, then there is the overall coupling constant, which is also related to the charge of the electric field. This coupling constant. Yes, that's a good question. It works non-abelian theory. It does act from non-abelian theory. There is something called a monotone duality. I will not go into that, but you will find it, the references in my note. If you're interested, please go into that. It is actually. It's a good. No, but I am not able to. There is no hanging index. So in the action, it is contracted, right? There is no hanging index actually. So the path integral, this is e to the power the action is scalar. There is no hanging index. Even the gauge constant, this is the gauge equation part. There is no hanging index anywhere. Actually, there is no hanging index. Okay. So index are contracted. If we go through carefully the language, index and contract, no hanging index. Only thing is that what might have you are asking is that why we need to put the constraint like here in this case. This is simply because we are overcounting degrees of freedom. If we don't put the constant, if we try to calculate this partition function, evaluate this partition function, you end up into some problem. There will be something blow up. You may have heard this kind of a ghost, fuzzy pop-up ghost, etc. So this, if you little bit do quantum field theory, you will see that you end up a problem. This path integral will be ill-defined. Propagator will be ill-defined. So that's why you have to put this constant. But there is no hanging index. Actually. Okay. So maybe I should proceed a little bit then. Any more questions? Yes. Hello.
Sir, in the Lorentz, when the Lorentz gauge is imposing in the delta function, and the same as where the some CMU also is some auxiliary field where also we put some Lorentz kind of condition. We know that from the gauge symmetry, the charge conservation actually come out from the theory. So is it possible that we can expect that from the auxiliary field we get another conservation kind of thing?
It is, but that thing don't exist in our nature. It is.
Okay.
It is. It is some charge that we don't want to deal with.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe if you are interested, you should read about this Dirac monopole business actually.
Okay.
Answer is there.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think this is the intuition. This is the language that we'll talk about when we do dualities, ADS safety, especially ADS safety. And there are some other examples. You can look at it. Some other examples as a challenge or homework. You can look, or you can find it in my notes. One is the in a 2D Ising model, there is a high temperature and low temperature duality. So the partition function expanded when the in the high temperature limit and low temperature, they actually match for 2D Ising model. And that actually helps us to determine the critical point exactly. So you can find it out. I will not be able to, I will not go into too much in this thing because this is not exactly what it is. Another very nice, cute thing that you will find in the lecture note is something called the Turing model, which is a model involving free fermion, and there is a coupling, and there is a term J mu nu square. J is the fermionic current, so it's a free fermion plus J mu nu square. It's a Turing model. It's a Turing model which is dual to something called a massive Sine-Gordon theory. And this is very important thing actually in the condensed matter point of view also. If you know this duality, if you are interested, you should look at it. You will find these references in mind. And all this is formulated in terms of partition functions. So low partition path integral actually. The theory is completely Lagrangian wise, they are completely different, but in terms of generating functional, they are different, which means that if you want to map the observable, they will be in a state. Although this Turing model, I think Sine-Gordon is duality is a little bit a non-trivial. So you can look at it if you are interested. Okay, so I think the stage is set. So one more question: is the constant of Lorentz gauge same is the state of no? Gauge symmetry is there. Bianchi identity is that okay? So when I mean Bianchi identity is the what you call four type of Maxwell equation. Actually, two are the dynamic equation, two are the constant equation. If you think carefully, because they don't involve any source. And gauge theory is inherent in the structure of this F mu nu. And if you wanted to use a different gauge, yes, fine. You can use any different gauge in the path integral. My conclusion will not change. Of course, you have to, whenever you do a calculation in gauge theory, you have to pick a gauge. You can pick a gauge, fix the gauge, do the calculations. This will not affect. You can choose a different gauge.
No, what I was asking is, so when you change the variable from a mu to f mu nu, so you put a Jacobian and everything, and the delta function, the constant delta function, you changed it to, I mean, a delta of del mu mu, you changed it to delta of del mu f tilde f mu nu.
So that is
what if I chose a different gauge? Then what would I have written in place of del mu f tilde f mu nu?
In whatever be that gauge theory is little bit put in by hand. Actually, I didn't actually change the variable. So that constant is put in by hand to not to overcome. So whenever you do it f mu nu, you should put the Bianchi identity, because Bianchi identity is the constant on f mu nu. Whatever gauge you
okay, sir.
Okay, so now I think the stage is set, and we can slowly go to our intended target to discuss the idea, to at least state the duality ADS-FT, because this is a conjecture and this is like a dictionary. I cannot prove anything, but I will just show you the statement how two sides are related. So before that, let me point out some old observations actually. So coming from long back, actually, Bekenstein observed by Bekenstein-Hawking in the context of black hole entropy. So you must be or will be seeing it in your GR courses. So this is the classic reference I should write. This is the reference. I missed it actually. Working PRD, Physics Review D, 1.3, 1973. This is the seminal paper of Hawking entropy. So we know that entropy of a black hole is basically proportional to the area of its event horizon. And that is known as the Bekenstein-Hawking entropy. So what is that entropy of a black hole, which we denote by S? I am keeping the constant, natural constant as it is now. C cube A by this HBH. Let me put a subscript. This is the black hole entropy. Gn. Gn is the Newton constant that appears in front of the Einstein equation that you have even seen, and A is the area of the event horizon. The area of the I guess you have familiar with this statement even at the popular level. I don't have to say more. And now there is a like a fault of high energy theory. In whatever I will do, I will set all these C AUR to 1. I will work in natural unit. If you like, you can put them back, but I will not. I will not bother about that. 4G Newton. This is the famous Bekenstein-Hawking formula. It is area by 4G Newton in this natural unit. Now, what this means actually? So this is actually very counterintuitive. So from the local quantum field theory point of view, we expect that the entropy should go with the volume of the system, because entropy is proportional to the degrees of freedom that you have seen from statistical physics. And this is the degrees of freedom should fill the entire black hole space-time. So if you think there is an underlying microscopic description of black hole, whatever be, we don't, at least let's not bother about that. And that degrees of freedom should give rise to that entropy, which reflect in this formula that S is proportional to that degrees of freedom. But if you think fill of degrees of freedom, it should scale as a volume of that region, not the area. But this remarkable formula suggests, actually, it is later realized that implication of this thing is that the degrees of freedom of black hole scales like a quantum field theory, leaves one less dimension. So if there is a 4-dimensional black hole and there is a area of the event horizon, which is dimensionally less, and it seems that a quantum field theory living in one less dimension, the volume will be like an area from the point of view of r dimension, right? So the black hole entropy simply suggests that the black hole, the degrees of freedom of black hole is described by a quantum field theory living simply one lower dimension. Okay, and this is a remarkable observation. So based on this observation, actually 't and Susskind first put forward the idea of the holography. First conjectured the holographic nature of quantum gravity. Quantum gravity. It seems that to describe the gravity in terms of some quantum field theory, the degrees of freedom rather lies at the boundary, not in the bar. And this is the essence. That is, we'll see that there is a gravitational theory defined in a space-time, which is equivalent to a quantum field theory living at the boundary of the space, one less dimension. It is sort of a motivating factor. And if you are interested, you should actually look into these two papers, 931, 6 and FTH. One is by 't Hooft and one is by Susskind. Okay, I think now the stage is set. You have a sort of a intuition about how to talk about dualities in terms of particle and function, and there is some old observations which is triggering point of having a holographic nature of quantum gravity. So let's state now the Holy Grail, which is the ADS-FT conjecture. Let me state it. So what is the statement? Let me state the basic statement. And this is a very nice statement without referring to any sort of string theory, but because given the application of ADSFT, I believe that this is a little bit, although the first example came from string theory, but I believe given its so diverse application, it is actually transcend beyond string theory. At least that is why most of us use like in a bottom-up approach without referring to so-called the string theory. But I will maybe give the original example of ADSFT at some point if needed. So what is that? Okay. So it says that relativistic gravitational theories defined in something called anti-de Sitter spacetime. I will explain it to you. What is that? In d+1 dimension. So anti-de Sitter, so short form I write ADS d+1 is dynamical equivalent. This is very important. Dynamically, because we just not match by symmetry or something. The dynamic, you have to compute all the dynamic quantity both sides and they should match. This is the important thing. So dynamically equivalent, dynamical equivalent. Let me use some different color here. To a certain type of quantum field theory, which is known as conformal field theory. Again, I will explain to you, because you are probably some of you have did field theory. You have said typically you have Lorentz invariant field theory. All the theories are Lorentz invariant. Maxwell, etc., scalar field, Klein-Gordon, Lorentz invariant field theory. Conformal field theory has a little bit more symmetry. I will state the symmetry generator. Like, come to it. Conformal field theories in d dimensions, and where this d dimension lives, it's at the boundary of this ADS. Boundary of this ADS d+. So there is a ADS d+1. There is a gravitational theory defined. Gravitational theory means like Einstein action plus cosmological constant. I will show it to you, plus some other field. You can have gauge field coupled to metric, etc., etc. This is like gravitational theory defined on this anti-de Sitter spacetime, and this is equivalent, dynamically equivalent to a certain type of conformal field theory. I will point out why certain type of conformal field theory defined on d dimension, which is lives at the boundary of this ADS space. Boundary, this is crucial. It lives on the boundary. This is not too disconnected thing. So the thing is that the crucial point is that, as like to highlight, so this is like a strong weak duality. So typically you see Newton constant, which is the coupling constant in the gravitational side, is very weak. You know, the value is very small. So gravity theory is basically very weakly coupled. So you can do perturbation theory, you can do your usual method, perturbative method to compute things in gravity theory. So it's very easy. But on the other side, this side of conformal field theory, these are typically not any conformal field theory, but actually the way ADS-CFT duality is posed, it actually requires some strongly coupled conformal field. Strongly coupled CFT. I will use the short form CFT for conformal field. And this is like first conjecture by Juan Maldacena is 97, and we have like almost 30-35 years of development on that. But it still remains a conjecture. So we have a strong, weak. So as I mentioned that why it is important from the computational point of view, you see that these conformal field theories like a scale invariant theories, and they appear in many interesting scenarios. Like whenever there is a phase transition, you have a scale invariance, and the theory is described by conformal theory. Actually, many times it happens many times in quark-gluon plasma physics to many places. The conformal theory appears. Actually, conformal field theory appears, and the thing is that because this is a strongly coupled field theory, usually the thing that we found in nature is strongly coupled conformal field theory. It's very hard to do a direct computation. Of course, you can do a numerical lattice computation, which is actually very hard and complicated. And you see, just from the computational point of view, ADS-CFT gives you a remarkable simplification. Because if you have a gravity dual of this kind of certain type of theories, at least you can do a computation there, because it's a weakly coupled gravity theory. You can use your usual technique. You can use your geometry and compute various things very easily and get intuition about various observables in the CFT side. That is how we use usually in the practical point of view the ADS-CFT, without referring to any string theory business. So I think this okay. So let me give you the precise formulation. As we see that these dualities typically formulated in terms of path generating functions, right? So what is the statement is that more precisely, precise statement is that this is the strong form of the, we have partition function in the gravity. So there is a gravitational action, exponential Euclidean gravitational action, Euclidean action defined on ADS d plus 1, and this can be function of g mu nu, a mu nu, phi, etc. And then you have to integrate over all the possible field configuration. And not only that, you have to evaluate from the gravity point of view. When you have to compute this generating function, you have to evaluate this action on shell on shell. That means you have to first find the equation of motion of this field, whatever the fields are there, solve it and evaluate this action. So this is the on shell gravitational action, basically. And which is equal to this partition function should be same as the partition function in the CFT side, which lives at the boundary of this area, d dimension. And what the CFT partition function will be, if you have some certain fields in the CFT side, given something theory, it will be like this: a CFT plus some JI, OI. JI are the sources here. So you know that you have to differentiate. If you have to compute all the correlation functions from the partition function, you have to differentiate this J by Z by this JI to compute the correlation function and set JI to 0. So this JI is the source in the CFT side. And of course, in the gravity side, we have to find a matching. So every operator at the gravity side has one-to-one correspondence with the operator at the CFT side. And not only that, the boundary value of the boundary value, that means all the fields that is there in the ADS space, if you evaluate them at the boundary of the ADS, so you have to set some condition, boundary condition, because you have to solve the equation of motion by some boundary condition, because this is a second order differential equation, and boundary values of all the fields in the ADS side is identified with the source of the CFT, and this is what completes the dictionary. Let me write it down. So JI gets identified with the boundary values of the bulk field, the field in bulk. So this is the conjecture that this partition function both sides matches. So that means that if you compute correlation functions using one of the partition function, it should reproduce the correlation functions of others. And of course, CFT side computation is the strongly coupled theory, except certain circumstances like two-dimensional CFT, it's rather difficult. So we use the gravity side. If you can compute things in gravity side, that helps the computation lot more easier. And of course, this is a conjecture. We don't know that this duality holds for every CFT, every strongly coupled CFT. We only know some examples and we use it like that. We check it example by example. So we first check it example by example and then try to apply it for unknown cases. So I will pause here, and if you have any questions, I can take questions at this point. This is, I think, good time to take questions.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you explain on-shell gravitational action?
Yeah, on-shell means, so there is an action, right? So Einstein action. So R plus something like that. So on-shell means you have some action. Sorry. R minus some cosmological. I'm going to write it down actually. Maybe there is some phi in this background, some del mu phi on this background, gauge field f mu square, etc., etc. So you have to find the equation of motion for each of these fields and solve this equation of motion with a given boundary condition, and then put it back in the action. That's why called on-shell action. On-shell means the action evaluated on the solution of the equation of motion.
But that we do only as an approximation, right?
What approximation?
Saddle point approximation.
Saddle point approximation.
We take 1 by Gn to be large.
Oh, I see. So no. So I see. So so saddle point approximation. Saddle point approximation is that when I say okay, saddle point is that I am solving the classical equation of motion. And that, of course, that's the saddle point approximation. Of course, if you have a quantum effective action, if we expand the phi in terms of h bar, then you can even try to push this duality in that order by order in that quantum correction point of view, but that is not entirely clear what those means actually. So to be precise, the most precise thing is that there is a classical gravity, or at least in the semi-classical limit we are doing gravity. That is why we can write a metric and etc. There is a geometric description, and we can solve this equation of motion, classical equation of motion, and that is equivalent to this partition function of the symmetry on the CFT side. Of course, you can try to push it what you are saying, that incorporating like the quantum corrections, but the role of those corrections in ADS CFT is rather poorly unexplored.
Okay, so basically you are integrating the metric degrees of freedom by doing saddle point, right? Yes.
So it's like think about the way you do like partition function in scalar field theory, right? Scalar field theory. So you have del phi square minus m square phi square. Then I think then you just have do the Gaussian integration, just some propagator will come down. That is the quantum field theory side, sorry. And in this case, in this gravity side case, I am just approximating this by a saddle point function. So then this integration rather become trivial. You end up evaluating just e to the power s actually. The integration, remember this integration is all possible configurations, right, on the G mu. All possible configuration of G mu. So a saddle point approximation, we have choosing only the dominant saddle, that this is the dominant saddle, then basically you have to evaluate e to the power minus s. Integration will go away. So, but you can ask me the question that is there are scenarios there where there may be many saddles, many minima of this thing, and they compete with each other. Indeed, that is true, and that gives rise to very rich phase transition phenomena known as Hawking-Page phase transition. So I will not be able to go into that actually. So I think if I go into that, your question will be answered more properly, but unfortunately I will not be able to go into that.
Yeah, and one more question. Do we know the relation between this exact relation between this Ji and the boundary field values?
It has to be. This is the part of the dictionary. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I think I will include a scalar field computation, just a scalar field on the background of ADS, scalar field on the background of ADS, computation explicitly in my note. Of course, if I do that, that will take one lecture, one full lecture. But I will not do that. I will include my note. I can go through. You will see the precise way of identifying. You have to identify. There is no proof, but you have to identify. If this identify works, then you get a sensible answer. That is the point. But this is what you have to do.
Okay, thank you.
So there is a chat. How can we say spacetime is ADS if metric is OIC? So okay, so this I will not go. So we are working in a particular regime. So this actually will little bit take me to the original origin of this ADS. It comes from string theory. Of course, it comes from string theory, but it comes in a limit where we have a geometry. So there is something called alpha prime, which is related to the string length, and that is very, very less than zero limit. And then we have a space-time, a metric description of the space-time emerges. In that limit, this thing works actually. This limit works in a very particular limit. I am included that limit. I will not go into that much details of it. Given we have just 2-3 lectures to finish these things. And go into the other part, but indeed we are working in a limit where actually the space-time emerges. There is a limit comes from string theory actually. I cannot say more to that right now actually. Is there some sort of uncertainty principle in these dual variables like we have Heisenberg expression? Uncertainty principle, I'm not sure. This is maybe related to some I'm not sure I understand this question. This is just electromagnetic duality. The duality that I discussed is purely at the, these fields are dual to each other in a very non-local complicated way, but this is like a quantum field theory actually. This is not a quantum mechanics. So I don't know actually what is the meaning of this uncertainty. This is not a quantum mechanics anymore. Okay, so I think
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of CFT apart from the free bosonic or something like that?
Oh, that's the n equal to 4 super Yang-Mills. That's the original example of where this ADS safety actually discovered, but there is a very trivial exercise you should do. Take Maxwell equation F mu nu square at 4 dimension. Check that whether this is scale invariant or not. You will find this is scale invariant. Only d equal to 4.
I see. Okay.
And actually, because maybe if you are this GR course, there is a GR course. Actually, if you have world book, go to the appendix of the world book. This is explicitly done there. Actually, this is a very well-known example. And there is some theory in some regime where it has been described by some CFT, for example, Ising model at critical point. That is also a CFT. QCD at some limit, where we discuss quark-gluon plasma. That is also a CFT, and so on, actually. But check this Maxwell, if mu square d equal to 4. You can only prove that at d equal to 4, and that is very interesting. Okay, I think okay, so making this statement, actually, let's talk about a little bit the ADS space, something basics about ADS space to complete our discussion of so-called ADS safety, and also some generator, safety generator, etc. to complete this discussion. And we will see there is actually two phases of this duality. One is this kinematical part, one is the dynamical part, which actually amounts to saying the partition function matches. But even before partition function matches, you will see that the symmetry under which the ADS spacetime remains invariant, the metric of the ADS space remains invariant, is same as the symmetry of one-dimensional less conformal. That is actually I will like to point out. So let's talk about ADS spacetime, and also I will little bit point out something which will be required when I make some comment about when we actually go into this entanglement entropy holographic stuff. Okay. So ADS is a maximally symmetric space, and it's a solution of Einstein equation with a cosmological constant. So maximally that is d-dimensional ADS. D will have a something like d into d plus 1 by 2 number of Killing vector. By the way, those who are not familiar with what is Killing vector is, these are vectors which generate the transformation which gives the metric invariant. These are Killing vectors. And these are solution of Einstein equation. Or which comes from the Einstein action, which is 6 by g Newton ddx which is scalar lambda. Okay. And of course, let me for and you can see that solution looks this form. I think this is standard GR stuff, and if you don't worry, you can find it in book. So Riemann tensor takes this particular form, sigma. Okay. And this lambda R, just R without index is a Ricci scalar, as you have seen. R is, and the cosmological constant is by 2L square. L is the ADS radius, which is actually inversely 1 over L square, or the Ricci scalar is actually 1 over L square. In that, the radius. We call it, this is ADS radius. So Ricci square will be 1 over L square, some number times 1 over L square. You can find it. You can put this equation here and find how R looks like in terms of 1 over L square. Okay, so So how to visualize this space? This is just a formal solution. It looks like this. R mu nu take this structure and it's a solution of the Einstein equation with negative cosmological constant. How to look like this? So most of you are familiar with the Minkowski space-time. And let me actually start from there so that you can try to visualize this ADS very easily. So the important point is that a D plus 1 dimensional ADS space, which we write ADS D plus 1, can be embedded into D plus 2 dimensional Minkowski space. But it's not the usual Minkowski space. It is a Minkowski space which is of the form RD, 2, which means it has 2 times like signature, 2 negative sign. So if we denote the coordinate of this thing as x0, x1 up to x d plus 1, and with a metric eta bar, which is a diagonal metric, but of this signature +1, +1, and then -1. So there is d +1 entry and 2 -1 entry. So let's write this RD, 2, this kind of a Minkowski metric, which is very easy. Your d square. And I use the capital M index. dxd. Okay. So this is the RD, 2 metric on the RD, which is Minkowski metric, but 2 times signature. Now ADS can be thought about like a hypersurface in this D plus 2 dimensional space. Okay. It's just a generic surface. Like you have a 2 surface. If you have a 3-dimensional space, you can have a 2-dimensional surface. It's just like a generalization of it. You have D plus 2 dimensional space, and ADS D plus 1 is embedded as a hypersurface in that space. So how to do that? And that will actually help you to visualize the space. Eta Mn. So this is the metric dxm dxn. Let me write it explicitly. Actually, let me not write d. I should write the finite distances. Sorry, finite distances. xn. This. And now how ADS is embedded? So what is we have to define an equation, right? So we have D plus 2 coordinate, we have to define one equation to reduce to get a equation of a surface, which is equal to minus L square. And you can see this is the radius of curvature. So ADS space, the defining equation of the ADS space in terms of this embedding coordinate, that is the coordinate of this one higher dimensional Minkowski space with 2 times signature, is follows. Okay, and you can see this is almost same as a hyperboloid, a generic dimensional hyperboloid, but not exactly. So this is a disclaimer. Don't think that hyperbolic space, hyperboloid is same as the ADS space time, because the causal structure is different because of this sign issue. But overall structure, you can very loosely speaking think of it as a hyperpolar, but it's not exactly same because there is a subtlety about causal structure. So when you read any ADA safety review, be careful about this. I will not go into too much details of this, but try to caution. So this is a common mistakes. And you can see that this part is invariant under a transformations which generate a symmetry group of SO D, 1. So think about this. Think about this in the following way. In the following way. So you remember that you have Minkowski space. So it remains invariant under the Lorentz boost. There's a one-time direction, Lorentz boost, translations, all the translations, Lorentz boost, and the rotation, space rotation, the full Poincare. And the Minkowski space, you can see that the symmetry group, if you find this generator of this symmetry transformation, find the algebra, it will say that satisfies after suitable identification SO D, 1. So for example, 4-dimensional Minkowski space has a symmetry group SO 3, 1 basically. So now, sorry, I have written a mistake. So here there is a simplest generalization. We have, instead of one time direction, there are two time like direction in the embedding space. So naturally the group becomes SO D, 2 instead of D, 1, which you are familiar from the Minkowski space-time study. So this is the isometry group or the symmetry group. When I mean symmetry group, be careful. I mean find the symmetry transformations of the ADS D+1 metric, find the killing vector, find the symmetry transformation, find the generator, check their algebra. The algebra form a closed group, and this group is nothing but SO D, 2 for ADS D+1. See? So ADS D+. Okay. So one more thing before we end today, just to make our next class, we will actually start from there, write down explicit coordinate system and connect with the CFT side of stories, But before that, let me make one contact, because today you had some causal structure of black hole space-time, etc. in the first class. ADS D+1, yes. Oh, sorry. Good. Sorry. Thanks. It's for the ADS D+. Thanks. Yes. Sorry for the time. So now ADS has something called a conformal boundary. So you will see that sometimes when I say ADS has a boundary, it's actually a conformal boundary. I will drop the word conformal because in several places I will actually refer to it boundary, because this is the boundary. This is the boundary where the CFT lives actually. CFT sits. CFT lives. This is the boundary. So ADS has a conformal boundary. This is the misuse of the phrase. I will henceforth refer to as a boundary, but it's a conformal boundary because see, these are non-compact spaces. It goes from infinity. So what I mean conformal boundary is that you first do a conformal transformation, map all the infinity to a finite portion of the region, and then you can identify this boundary. This is the same way you do for Minkowski space. You generate this rhombus type of structure. This is the Penrose diagram. I will not go into that. Probably you will learn it in here, but let's not go into that. But we'll see that ADS also has this kind of a conform. ADS has this conformal boundary. Unlike the flat spacetime, where it is a null boundary, ADS boundary is a not null. And that's the important thing. It has a Minkowskian structure in certain coordinate space. And that's why safety lies. Otherwise, we cannot define a field theory easily on a null boundary. So this is why it's so difficult to do a flat space holography where the conformal boundary is a null. But ADS, we not have a non-null conformal. This is you should remember. Okay, so how to define boundaries? Let me do that and finish it here. For large X, so look at this large X. Okay, look at this embedding. This is the definition of the ADS in terms of the embedding coding. So what he says, for the large value of X's, and L is all given a particular curvature radius, L is fixed. But if you take large X, this hyperboloid reaches the light cone of RD minus 2. Remember, this is R not D minus 1, but RD minus 2. So when X is large, so these three terms will dominate, and this is very small, we can neglect it. So what will happen for large X's, Xi, whatever, we simply have this condition. Most equal to neglect the L square because that is fixed. So boundary of the ADS now, the last sentence that I will going to write. Boundary of the ADS is set of all lines from 0 to from the origin of this RD minus 2 on this light cone. That means on this thing that is defined by this equation. All the lines that lies on this surface generates the boundary of the ADS. So light cone means, I guess you know what is light cone means. Light cone in Minkowski space with the just dx square x square minus t square, but here two signs, so there is one extra minus. So this is how we define a boundary of ADS. Although this is a non-compactified space and non-compact space, but it has a conformal boundary which is not a null boundary like a flat space-time, and the safety lives on that boundary. And you will see, and we will choose tomorrow. Tomorrow talk, we will actually choose some particular parameterization for this capital X's that will give different coordinate system to describe this ADS. And we will say that in Poincare ADS, which mostly we will use, the boundary actually becomes a flat Minkowski. We will see tomorrow. So let me summarize that what we have done is hopefully I have motivated you about this ADS safety duality, and we talked about little bit about how this ADS space is here. There are some other aspects that we will cover in the next class. Hopefully we will cover it. I will pick up the space because we have to cover a lot more things. We'll little bit pick up the space. Hopefully we'll cover that. And then we will talk about the role of quantum information. Given the structure of ADS safety, we will discuss the role of quantum information theory, fast entanglement, and then motivate you to what is the complexity conjecture from holography, and then that will end this first half of the lecture. Well, and we will be done with the ADS safety. And then we will actually focus on simple quantum mechanical systems and quantum. Okay, so I end here. So de Sitter space, no. De Sitter space also have a null, no. So this is a space you have a conformal boundary, but that is not that is a little bit different. It's not null, but it's a different. The causal property is different. Note will be available. So regarding notes, I think I have a set of prepared note of ADS safety itself that I will upload. Although I will not able to cover 20% of that thing, but I think you should go through it. That's a more detailed note. We'll upload it. Maybe I don't know where. I will send these people who are in charge of uploading. They will upload it. I think hopefully soon. But that note will contain a detailed thing which I will not even cover actually, but maybe for your benefit you will look at it. Course content, I don't know where it will be uploaded, probably with the link. So I think so. So we'll let you know. All the courses, other courses will be also uploaded. I think we are done with the time.